This week I'm fulfilling one of my most requested items, and that is a true beginner's project for polymer clay. This week we're going to make some peanut butter cookies for the kids to enjoy after school this beginning of the school year. So grab some polymer clay, a few tools, and join me for a project even an absolute beginner can succeed at. All right, let's start with the clay. Now remember, this is a beginner's project. I'm going to make this as simple to do as possible. This is the perfect project if you've never worked with polymer clay and you kind of want to get your feet wet. You want to see what it's like, but you don't want to invest a lot of money in a lot of stuff that you may never use again. We're going to start with clay. You will need some polymer clay. You'll need one package of polymer clay to make peanut butter cookies. You could use either of these colors. My preference, and what I'm working with today, is Primo in Ecru. It's kind of a beige color. I've also used Fimo Soft in Sahara. This works just fine. It's just a little lighter, but it works just fine. Whichever one you can get your hands on. You need a surface to work on. Now my preferred surface is a ceramic tile. I use a 12 by 12 inch tile from Home Depot. I like a nice smooth one for most clay work, but not for all. If you don't have this, you can work on a piece of paper. Just don't work on a wooden table directly. You can work with, protect your wooden table, because polymer clay will take the finish off of wood pretty quickly. It really mars it. So protect your table with a ceramic tile. Even a piece of printer paper, anything to protect, just plain printer paper works great. Don't have any ink on it, make sure it's plain white. Just a nice clean surface that's flat to work on. You will need, for texturing, either some sandpaper or I like an emery board. An emery board is inexpensive. I buy huge packages of them at the dollar store, and I use them for everything. I use these probably every craft project I do, just about. I pick up an emery board at some point or another. We need to put the little cross-hatched lines on the top of our cookies. Today I'm using my dental pick. This also is a Dollar Tree purchase, but you could use a sewing pin, you could use a toothpick, you could use a safety pin, you could use a piece of wire. Just something that's skinny and straight that you can push down in the clay. You will need to add some color to your clay. I'm using some of my Artist Loft chalks. These are chalk pastels, or soft pastels they call them. I'll get them out of the package. We're only using 3 colors. We're using the Ecru, or golden brown. We're using just a little bit, since I can get to slide out, I'll just do this, of a dark brown. And we're going to use a red brown. Now, if you don't have clays, these are not expensive. They're from Michael's. They're just inexpensive, and there's, for under $10 you can get sets of chalk. Just make sure they have these 3 colors. If you don't have chalk, you could also use a matte finish eyeshadow. Just don't use a sparkly one for this. You need something to bake on. I almost always bake on these uncoated white paper plates. They're safe to go in the oven at the low temperatures that we use for our clay. And they're, like I said, they're cheap. I can work on them. I can make notes if I need to. They're great for experimenting because I can make notes. And I know I'm not going to hurt something. Now, don't use anything with your clay and then use it with food again later. So if you use a knife from the kitchen, you can't take it back to the kitchen and use it. It's only a clay knife then. So be careful about that. That's a good reason for using the paper plates. Now you're going to take your clay out of the package, and you're just going to work with it. And I have chalk on my fingers because I was handling the chalk. A wet paper towel, a wet towel, some wet wipes, something like that, it's handy to have. I like wet wipes. I always have them on my craft table. In fact, both of my craft tables have wet wipes. We're just going to knead the clay. You're conditioning the clay. This is called conditioning, what I'm doing. It means I'm just basically squishing it until it gets softer and gets more even textured. Now, I'm going to roll a snake. Roll a snake. It's about, well, it's got to be pretty small. Because this is a beginner project, we're just going to work with really simple shapes. Now I'm just going to use this to cut with, because this will work just fine to portion off your clay with too. You can use whatever you've got. You could use a clay knife, you could use your pointy tool. Now we're going to make a circle. We're going to make a little ball. I'm just making a ball in my hand. And we're going to make one of those for every cookie we're going to make. After you have a ball made, you're going to take your emery board and you're going to roll this on the emery board. We're starting to get some texture. And it's rolling away. It's really warm in here again, so now there's not a lot of texture yet, and that's fine. Trying to make sure I stay under the camera. If you go to my blog post, I will have the list of everything we use, plus the colors of clay that you need, and all that. So I'm going to start with these three. Get this out of the way. Now I like to move to my baking surface, because it's just nice to have these corralled. The paper plate has a nice rim around it, so things don't run away quite so easily once I get them smushed. Now, take that emery board and use it to kind of start getting these flat. Now, take your pointy tool and you're going to make, you might need to use your emery board as an extra finger or your finger. It's up to you. I'm trying to keep my fingers out of the way. There. So it's already looking like a cookie. This one didn't get flattened very much earlier, so this one I need to re-roll and get it flatter, because it didn't flatten out enough. There. Now, so you can use your fingertip too to hold that down. Do what is most comfortable for you, and some of them are going to fall apart, and those, like this one, it just doesn't want to cooperate, so we're going to get rid of that one. Now that chalk. We start always with the lightest color chalk, and these are the chalks I use no matter what baked good I'm making. This is just an eyeshadow brush, again from the dollar store. I prefer eyeshadow brushes over paint brushes for doing my chalk because they're designed to pick up powders. It makes them work a little bit easier with this. Pick up just a little bit and just brush it over. And you're not going to notice a lot of difference. Now, if the bottom of your cookie is going to be visible, you might want to do it too, but mine aren't. Now, just a teeny tiny touch on that reddish one. And the lightest touch possible with this one. You don't want it to look like you've burnt your cookies, but you want a little extra touch. Go around a little more on the edges by rolling them around with the brush. And we've got cookies. They're that easy. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. These are, is that going to focus? Come on, focus. That's focused, I think. They're that easy to do. So I'm going to go bake these. Always follow the directions on your package. for baking temperature. This one says at 275 for 30 minutes per 1/4 inch. These are nowhere near a 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going to bake them for about probably 10 minutes. I'll make a few more cookies off camera. After they're baked, I'll be back. So after your cookies come out of the oven, just like in real life, just plate them up and put them out, and the dolls in the dollhouse will have a wonderful snack this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed this beginning clay project. Let me know if you want to see more super easy polymer clay projects. Be sure to check the blog for the list of all the things that we used today. And be sure and check us on Facebook because we have a lot of fun over there. I'll talk to you later. Bye.